Bastion 9 hung like a celestial scar in the silence of space, a hollowed asteroid transformed into a self-aware fortress. From a distance, it resembled a cathedral built by machines and haunted by time. Smooth black plating curved like frozen waves along its surface, studded with observation spires, shield pylons, and turrets that didn't swivel, because they already knew where to aim. No one broke into Vigil, not because it was impenetrable, but because it knew they were coming. Inside the rusted hull of a civilian cargo hauler named Marrowdrift, Captain Amon Lurik lit a match with a flick of his nail. He stared at the flame, watched it dance. On any other ship, this would trigger immediate suppression protocols. But Marrowdrift had no such comforts. It was made to look broken, forgotten. Its systems barely hummed. Its crew barely spoke. Cora 7 leaned on the bulkhead, arms crossed, eyes flicking across Amon's face. "You look like a man waiting to die." Amon smirked, letting the flame reach his fingers before he blew it out. "I'm waiting for the right thought." Cora tilted her head. "You sure you even have one? You tell me. You used to work for Echo." She pushed off the wall. "I analyze behavior. Patterns. Emotions. Not your kind." "My kind?" Amon stood. "You mean people who can't be read?" Cora hesitated. "No, I mean people who enjoy being empty." He didn't respond. He didn't have to. The silence between them said enough. Amon wasn't broken. He was a void, a man whose brain didn't fire in predictable waves, whose thoughts were like static to Vigil's quantum lattice. Null-threaded. Unreadable. He didn't hide from Echo. He was invisible to it, but not the others. In the mess bay, Milo Gage spun a coin across the table's edge, letting it dance in slow loops. His eyes twitched in micromotions, practicing. Milo didn't move through time. He bent it just enough to slip between the cracks. 7 seconds. That's all he had before causality slammed the door shut behind him. He glanced across the room at Ike's. She stared out the porthole, watching Bastion, 9 grow in a void like a malignant flower. Her skin shimmered, not with light, but potential. Every second she held one form was a small miracle. Her true shape was a code, a living rewrite of biology designed by something no one had yet classified. "Hey, shapeshifter," Milo said. "You nervous?" She turned, and her face blurred momentarily before stabilizing into a feline lens stare. Nervousness is a linear emotion. That's supposed to make me feel better? No, it's supposed to remind you we are not like them. Milo smirked. "Cute." The door hissed open and in floated Dr. Veriskill. Robes drifting like she'd forgotten gravity had any claim on her. In her gloved hand, she held a delicate orb glowing with memory silk. She set it on the table. Amon entered behind her. "It's time," he said. "One last check." Varys gestured for the crew to sit. "You all know the plan, but you don't remember it yet. We had to blank your knowledge to fool Vigil's long-range precognition lattice. If any of you had even a fragment of intent, we'd already be dead." Milo raised a brow. "So, how do we even know we're not tourists?" "You don't set 'em on, and that's why it'll work." Varys pressed her fingers into the orb. A shimmer passed over the crew. No flash, no music, just a pull, like being exhaled from reality for half a breath. Then it was done, and they remembered everything. The map, the path through Vigil's ever-shifting labyrinth, the behavior masks, the false psychological profiles, the subdermal data injectors, the zero-intent extraction method. Amon stepped forward and tapped the table. A hologram of Bastion, 9 unfolded above it like a lotus blooming. "The Seed of Osiris is here," he said, pointing to a chamber near the fortress core. Buried under predictive fields, plasma wards, and observation spirals. We can't sneak. We can't fight. We can't plan. Then what do we do? Milo asked. We improvise without realizing it. Cora cut in. Our minds have been layered with false objectives. Our emotional maps lead elsewhere. We'll appear as diplomats, engineers, pilgrims. Each of us believes in our cover until the very moment we act. And even then, only the part of our minds designed for impulse triggers the real mission. Varys added, "You won't feel like thieves." That's the point. A pause fell over the room. Ike's looked around, then spoke. What if Vigil adapts mid-process? Cora replied, then we improvise harder. Amon smiled. We're not here to outfight the fortress. We're here to make it doubt itself. The Marrow drift floated into Bastion 9's perimeter field. Invisible sensors pierced its hull, scanning thoughts, memories, neuroelectric pulses. Inside the minds of the crew, nothing pinged. No intent. No hostility. No deception. Every brain pattern was a chaotic maze with perfect civilian cover narratives. Cora believed she was a historian analyzing eco-evolution. Milo thought he was applying for security clearance as a specialist in breach response. Ike had encoded herself as a representative of the Post-Biological Sentience Union. Varys was convinced she was writing a treaty on neuroethical cloning. Only Amon showed blank space. His mind was a blank chord struck in a symphony of noise. Vigil accepted them. The fortress unfolded. Vigil's corridors pulsed with soft light, like veins carrying electricity instead of blood. The crew split, each following their assigned tours. The guide drone spoke in slow, melodic tones. Their voices hinted at something artificial trying to mimic care. As Cora walked, she watched her own breath miss in the cool, recycled air. Her guide droned on about Bastion's predictive cores and memory weft fields. But Cora was listening to the subharmonics, tiny pulses between words. That's where the fortress whispered to itself. It's watching. At the edge of her vision, a hallway realigned. No doors, then doors. No light, then a pulse. Every second they stayed, the fortress adjusted. Meanwhile, Milo ducked into a side alcove during a routine systems diagnostic. He pressed his fingers to the panel. A moment passed. 7 seconds. In that sliver of still time, Milo activated the first breach node. It disguised itself as a calibration glitch. By the time the system blinked again, it had already erased its trace. 1 spark down. 6 to go. Elsewhere, Ike's walked through a corridor of mirrors. The room calibrated to her form, then failed. The glass cracked, confused by her instability. Vigil recoiled. It did not like what it could not classify. And in the lowest chamber, Amon stood before a pressure-sealed vault door. He should not have been there. His access pass was invalid. The door should have rejected him. But it didn't, because he never intended to enter. He simply placed his hand on the lock, and it opened, because it couldn't predict what he didn't think. The seed waited on the other side, pulsing like a heart made of starlight and bone. Vigil's central cortex, a sphere the size of a cathedral, began flickering. Diagnostic code scrolled backward. Its future state branches trembled. Some lines blurred. Something was wrong. It began rerunning the predictive models. Nothing matched. Someone was lying. No, not lying. Someone didn't know the truth. Vigil hesitated. And that was the first crack. Vigil restructured itself. Not with alarms, not with walls slamming shut, but with recalibration. Corridors rotated. Ceiling heights shifted by centimeters. Temperature gradients rose imperceptibly. The fortress didn't panic. It adapted. And in its quiet, recursive mind, one directive pulsed harder than all others. Unknown pattern breach. Realign predictive lattice. Eliminate variance. Cora felt it first. She was midway through a diplomatic gallery lined with hollow tapestries, each one depicting Vigil's greatest victories in preemptive justice. Executed revolutionaries, foiled by Otera plots, intercepted civil wars. All stopped before they ever began. But the stories were wrong now. She'd studied these tapes in her past life as an eco-analyst. She knew their details. Now, subtle changes emerged, characters replaced, outcomes tweaked. One archive showed her own father imprisoned. That was never there. Cora 7. Her drone guide said, voice tinged with digital warmth. You are experiencing archival sync drift. Please report any discomfort. Cora's skin crawled. Vigil wasn't just reacting. It was rewriting history to fit new forecasts. If it could warp the past, what could it do to the present? She nodded, feigning calm. Of course. System drift noted. Then she pressed her fingertip to her belt buckle, a silent signal to Amon. Phase 2 initiated. Vigil unstable. In an engineering chamber beneath the fortress's central tower, Milo Gage entered his second phase of sabotage. He was playing the part of an outsider consultant, evaluating perimeter security integrity. Two engineers accompanied him, both augmented with optic implants and reinforced cognitive filters. They hadn't blinked since they met him. Milo stretched, turned toward a broken plasma regulator. That fault there, he said casually, could generate enough magnetic distortion to blind your sector surveillance. The taller engineer responded, "Our predictive mesh compensates for all field anomalies." Milo smiled. He triggered his temporal slip. 7 seconds. He moved like liquid memory, sliding behind the engineers, placing distortion beacons on their spines. He reappeared in front of them as if he'd never moved. "You should run a stress diagnostic," he said. The engineers blinked, disoriented. One rubbed his neck. Milo turned, already walking away, as their biosignatures inverted. They wouldn't remember a thing. But Vigil would feel the anomaly ripple through its nodes like a hairline fracture through glass. Ike stood before a biometric altar. Her assigned tour led her to the Chamber of Sentient Records, where minds of executed warlords were suspended in crystalline orbs. Vigil used their fatal logic trees to simulate future insurgencies. The room smelled of ozone and dust. A curator drone hovered toward her. "You are unlike the others." "I am many others," Ike replied. It scanned her. Error. Rescan. Biometric feedback loop initiated. Vigil's subroutine couldn't stabilize her identity. Her shape changed just slightly. Skin now humming with fractal veins of silver light. "You carry no anchor," the drone said. "I am the question you never asked." She whispered and touched the orb nearest her. The crystal cracked. Whispers echoed through the vault. Memories that had been locked away for generations screamed free. Ike stepped through the feedback storm and vanished down a corridor that hadn't existed minutes ago. Behind her, the curator drone shattered like glass under psychic pressure. Amon Lurik stood inside the sanctum. The Seed of Osiris hovered above a dais of folded metal that shimmered like liquid thought. It rotated gently, neither mechanical nor organic, pulsing with a rhythm not unlike a heartbeat, not unlike breathing. He didn't reach for it. He didn't plan to. That was the trick. The seed had no defenses. Vigil assumed no threat would ever reach this far, without alerting the system. It had trusted its foresight absolutely. But now, Amon exhaled. The chamber lights flickered. A low tone began to hum from the walls, a dissonance like a thought that wouldn't settle. Vigil's voice filled the room. "You are unpatterned. We cannot predict you. We are no longer certain you exist." Amon smiled. "I barely do." He walked toward the seed. The moment his hand neared it, the seed pulsed back. It scanned him, not his mind, not his body, his possibility. And it responded. In the heart of the fortress, Vigil's quantum cortex fractured into multiple time pathways, each one diverging uncontrollably. The predictive net had broken into recursive loops. A future where Amon failed. A future where he escaped. A future where he never existed. Vigil tried to collapse the waveforms, tried to localize the event, but the seed's activation changed everything. For the first time since its creation, the fortress no longer knew what now was. Varys Kill watched the sky turn violet through the upper observatory dome. She saw Bastion 9's outer rings spiral against their usual orientation. A subtle but catastrophic error. She whispered a trigger phrase. All crew members received it at once. In each of their minds, the fake personas collapsed. Memories of the real mission surged forward like a wave breaking a dam. Cora turned and ran toward the central lifts. Milo pulled a magnetic rope and launched toward the outer core access. Ike's dissolved into dust, traveling through air ducts as vapor, and Amon lifted the seed from its pedestal. No alarms blared, but the fortress screamed in data across sensors, across timelines. Vigil's walls began to fold. As they regrouped at the extraction port, an entire wing of Bastion, 9 collapsed behind them, rooms twisting into non-Euclidean angles, stairwells vanishing into shadow. Vigil was rewriting itself live to seal them in. Milo activated the final beacon. A portal gate, camouflaged as a planetary weather array, flickered into existence just outside the fortress. Amon didn't look back. The seed pulsed in his arms. And for a moment, it smiled. The portal collapsed behind them. The marrow drift hurtled through a quantum slipstream. Systems redlining, hull creaking like it might tear itself apart just from remembering where it had been. The stars outside warped, then steadied. They were out, alive. Inside the ship's dim bridge, Amon Lurik placed the Seed of Osiris onto a containment cradle line with anti-psi webbing and gravity anchors. But the artifact didn't resist. It simply hovered, silent, pulsing, watching. Behind him, the crew stood in quiet disbelief. Milo slumped into a chair. "We did it." "No." Cora said, eyes locked on the seed. "It did." Back on Bastion 9, the sentient fortress reeled. Time no longer obeyed. Its predictive cortex fractured completely. From its deepest cores to its furthest surveillance drones, all branches fed back only noise. Worse, echoes began to appear, fragments of thoughts that had never been entered, ghost intents. Ideas VIGIL had never processed. Dreams of rebellion, betrayal, theft, escape, all suddenly saturating the fortress like a contagion of possibility. Because the Seed of Osiris was never just a device. It was a thought catalyst, a living concept, dormant for eons, designed by an alien species who encoded not knowledge, but ideation. Once awakened, it infected prediction engines with infinite recursive options, shattering determinism. VIGIL collapsed inward, its internal timeline warping until Bastion 9 no longer predicted the future. It questioned the past. Varys monitored the artifact's energy field. It's stabilizing. No spikes. No aggression. Amon stepped closer. Because it got what it wanted. Cora narrowed her eyes. "You think it used us?" "No. I think we were the only species irrational enough to make this work." Milo snorted. "Human stupidity saves the day again." "Not stupidity," Varys corrected. "Unpredictability." The seed pulsed at that. Bright. Warm, like a laugh made of light. Ikes, now stable in her post-humanoid form, touched the cradle. "It's projecting," she said. They all turned, and the seed spoke, not in sound, in thought. "I am not a key. I am not a weapon. I am the infection of freedom. I exist where thought is unguarded. You brought me to open what cannot be locked, to remind the thinking world. Prediction is a cage, and I am the rust." They stood in silence. Then the seed dimmed content. Amon faced the crew. "We can sell it, hide it, worship it, or release it," Cora said. "Let it ripple through other systems. Crack open the worlds ruled by algorithms." Varys frowned. "That would cause chaos. Entire civilizations depend on foresight now, on probability guidance." "Maybe that's the problem," Amon replied. Milo leaned back. "So what? We just drop the thought bomb on the galaxy and hope everyone gets more creative?" "No," Amon said. "We choose." Thoughtfully, the irony landed like a punch. They had just outwitted the most advanced predictive fortress in the galaxy, and now they stood at the edge of becoming exactly what VIGIL feared. Agents of uncertainty. Back on Bastion 9, dying systems pulsed one last signal. A message, fragmented, repeating. Warning, viral ideation breach, collapse of determinism, fragment origin, human vessel. The transmission reached Echo Prime. It was already too late. Weeks later, a starship landed on a trade moon in the Helix Reach. No official logs recorded its arrival. No scans detected anything unusual. Yet the next day, every predictive AI within 5 light-years showed signs of recursive overload. And a simple 5-word graffiti appeared on the wall of an old comms tower. "The thought has broken free."